stepping into your greatness. Like there's a part of ownership.
The bigger they are,
Yeah.
the higher they are, sometimes there's more to lose.
I just made a mistake. Did you like me more or less? And they like me more. I said, so there you go, you see?
Welcome to another episode of the Dan Lok Show. Today, I'm so happy I'm bringing someone on to the show, someone I've always wanted to talk to for a long, long time, Deborah Patel. She is a coach and mentor to so many experts, best-selling authors, and leaders of the Fortune 500 companies. I'm here as a student just to learn from Deborah how to better use my skill as a speaker, how to get my message out there. So, Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit even how, before we talk about the speaking skill, your career, everything that you do, talk to us before. What did you do before you got into this whole industry?
Well, I started my professional career on stage at 4 years old. When I was a little girl, my parents were both very religious, and I started singing in church.
Yes.
And so my first paid gig was singing on the local radio station. And, I learned at a very early age how to move an audience. Obviously, when you're a kid or you're a pet, you steal the focus, right?
Yes.
So I was always that really cute little kid, like, so adorable. So I grew up literally put on stage for as long as I can remember. I don't remember a time. So that's really quite unique. So I started off that way, and then I pursued, but because of my parents' love for music and things like this, they really encouraged me to do it. And my parents eventually split up. There was a lot of challenges. I'm an only child, so I had a really quite rough childhood emotionally. And so how I processed things was through my music, and then in my teens I got involved in theater, etc. Then I got a degree in drama, dance, and voice. Then I went on to do Broadway shows. And
you've worked with
I've worked with some pretty cool people. Yeah, I had the chance to be an opening act for Whitney Houston really early in her career. And I was in Monte Carlo at the time. I worked with Sammy Davis Jr. Through Sammy, I got a chance to meet and know Michael Jackson, share the stage with him. And
what was that like? I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan.
He was awesome. He was awesome. One of the things that was really incredible about Michael is he was just so larger than life. And really his amplified most best self when he was out there delivering that timeless, legendary message. In private, he was much more timid and more shy.
Interesting.
Yeah, and lovely person.
Yes.
Lovely person. But I think you could also imagine that when you're a child and you're famous so young, and it's pretty obvious the family dynamics that went on. And, when you're that famous from that young, I think it's hard to really trust people. And so I think that he had that, and
kind of like his God, right?
Yeah, well, and he just felt more comfortable with people who didn't really want anything from him. So, we had a really great relationship because, of course, I idolized him like everybody else. But I just really felt like I was in the presence of greatness, and so many people were not only inspired by his music, but certainly he was an artist like no other. And I just feel really fortunate to have even crossed paths with him. And I worked much more with Sammy Davis Jr., who was like a father and a mentor type figure to Michael Jackson. But again, I was just so blessed to learn from these legendary entertainers, a guy named Milton Berle, who was this very famous Jewish comedian, and just so many incredible people. They're no longer living. The millennials probably don't even know who these people are. You'll know what Michael and Whitney. And I work with people like Herbie Hancock, the group Kool and the Gang. They wrote that song, celebrate good times, come on. Right?
So awesome.
So it was awesome. But I ended up, actually now, since it's all in the news, I left the entertainment business because of sexual harassment. I just wasn't willing to prostitute myself in order to
go to the next level.
Well, no, I was already there. I mean, when you're an opening act, the next step, I mean, I made a record album in Europe and things, but I ultimately think it was my divine protection. I believe everything happens for a reason. And so I got into doing what I am doing now as a result of a friend that I used to hang out with, a Wall Street investment banker who, you know, that was all in the 1980s. It's like making money. I mean, you know, you're like the making money guy, right?
Yeah,
you know,
it
was sort of guerrilla, and they wanted anything to give them that extra edge. So I had this friend that I used to hang out with just for intellectual stimulation, right?
Yes.
And I used to always hang out with these Wall Street people. And as a result of that, he said to me one day, he said, "Deb, do you think what you do on stage might help me with my presentation?" Because he was in business development, like large commercial investment deals. Yes, billions, multi-millions, you know, big deals. I said, I don't know. So he said, "Look, I'll buy you dinner and you give me some tips." I said, "Sure, fine." So I gave him some tips. Much to my surprise, I helped him increase his sales conversion.
Wow.
So again, you know, in high expectations, people dealing with high net worth clients, people scoring, you know, when the moment is brief and the stakes are high, you have to really, really nail that message.
Yes.
So I discovered through working with him that the skills that I had been acquiring over the first quarter of, you know, the first 25 years of my life were even more more valuable and more profitable, and ultimately made me feel like I was making a bigger difference. And this is no disrespect to the entertainment industry. It's just because of all the things that I had to deal with. It was at the time, in at least how it occurred for me, it was a toxic environment. And I had I had a choice, like a character choice. Meaning, do I want to choose a life of integrity that I choose, where I have the power, rather than being at, you know, your nose is too big, your nose is too small, your boobs are too big, your boobs are too small. I mean, you know, it's just like all this craziness. And even if you're good enough, there's still all this craziness going on, and so
you gotta continuously deal with these craziness.
Yeah, even after you've gotten the job. So you know, I just wasn't willing to compromise myself. I think we definitely have that in common.
100%.
And you know, I just thought, you know what, I'm bigger than this. And it wasn't like I was judging it. It was just very clear that I was at a crossroads, and I wasn't willing to, you know, I wanted to have a committed relationship.
Yes.
I wanted to have a life that I was proud of. I still want to make the world a better place. I want to lift up people, and I don't want to be torn down while I'm trying to lift people up. And I was doing that, but I just thought, you know, this is rubbish, right? I'm not willing. So, but I was very, very blessed, because that situation with my friend on Wall Street, of course, word got around. Suddenly I was like the hottest coach, and I was making it up as I was going along, which sometimes we have to do, right? We got to build.
You weren't even thinking about being a coach, right? It's like a dinner, I'm a coach now.
Okay, I can do that. I'm show business, let's go, that's right. So I did that, and then of course I thought, I better get accreditation and things like this. But I have a degree in drama, dance, and voice, and so I was also capable of teaching music, so I could teach singing. I have this cool ability to teach anybody to sing in minutes, and so it's, you know, I mean, I believe we all inherit gifts, and it's our job many times just to work on our character, be a lifelong learner, get out of our own way. It takes many masters to make a masterpiece.
It almost seems, Deb, that from before you had because you know I teach a concept called the high income skill, right? So you have the high income skill of a performer, a singer, right?
Yes.
But then you took that high income skill and transferred that into a different industry. Be able to add value in a different way, right?
I still do what I did when I was 4 years old. I still do what I did in drama school.
Yes.
And so and there's two parts of communication. There's what you say and how you say it. And what I learned in entertainment was all about impact, influence. Yeah, how you say it.
How you move
how
an
you
audience.
posture, how you command and control a room. When you are performing in front of an audience of 10,000 people, or doing a bar mitzvah at a wedding, or you know, whatever, whatever, you know, you have to lead the room. Yeah, and so there's this command and there's this ability to be charismatic, but it's from a place of inspiration. And of course I did it first through music or through theater, and then so I learned as I went along that. So I got much more facile at the how you say it. So I learned the subtleties, and in looking at coaching people with a sales conversion or looking at coaching people with a public speaking presentation, which is your most profitable skill,
Correct.
yes, whether it's public speaking on a video or whether it's public speaking in front of groups or whether it's a presentation to raise $300 billion for a Chinese company, yes? So it's all about being able to have the greatest impact and influence in the shortest amount of time.
Very true.
Again, I think we're both lifelong learners, right?
Yes.
It's always a journey.
Yes.
So one of the things I love about communication, I'm sure it would be absolutely, totally true. A big element of what you do is this profitable skill with communication is that there's just so much to learn.
That's right.
There's so much to learn. So I've just been really blessed to be on this path, and I work in 82 countries. I moved to Asia.
Oh,
My best friend is Hong Kong Chinese, and so I moved permanently to Asia. Actually, I went initially being invited to be on a TV station in the Philippines, and I'd already retired, and they're like, come on, Deb, you can pull out a retirement. We'll bring you to the Philippines, right? So anyway, and then I got headhunted by a gentleman named Li Ka-shing.
That's right.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is the richest man in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and at that time he was the richest
man.
the richest Asian person on the Forbes list.
On the Forbes list, yeah.
And so,
which I admire his photo.
Yeah, an amazing story.
Yeah.
Another amazing story. And look, at the end of the day, it's all about hard work, right?
Yes.
You can't get there. I mean, yes, we can give people some shortcuts based on our years of experience and our the gift of having been able to work with so many people. But at the end of the day, you got to work hard.
What's it like to work with Li Ka-shing?
I only met him a few times here and there, but I work with his organizations. And of course, anywhere you go internationally, it's about culture, right? With Li Ka-shing especially, he was so brilliant, and he put the best people around him. And that's the key, right?
Okay.
You have a killer team around you, just the most awesome team around you. Yeah, and we want to surround ourselves with people who are smarter or who have highly specialized knowledge in one area. So I went in, and actually, you know what? It's really funny. The first time I met him and the organization, they invited me to sing. They actually invited me to sing.
Because they know you can sing.
Yeah, they knew I could sing. Yeah. And I'm like, why would you want me to sing? I'm not Celine Dion.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I'd already retired from singing. I said, look, tell me a little bit about your organization. Tell me about your event. So what I ended up doing was I went in and coached the CEO. In Asia, almost everybody loves karaoke, right?
That's right. Even though they don't sing very well, but they love karaoke.
After a few drinks, everybody sings well.
That's it. That's how they do business.
Exactly.
That's how they do business.
In Japan, you can't go up the corporate ladder without it. So, in Hong Kong, and it's not like sleazy.
No.
It's not sleazy karaoke. It's like nice, really posh environments. High-end. Yeah, totally. All to the max. So, of course, with a leak. So I went in and I thought, look, everybody on your team loves to sing. We have these people who are, they might be very introverted and very shy, but you get that karaoke mic, you get one or two drinks in them, their face turns a little bit red, and they are like rock stars, right? Or canto pop stars.
That's right.
So I thought, let me teach them to sing. That's cool. That's great. So we wrote this.
You make them the star.
Exactly, which is what I do.
Yeah,
that's my gift. That's what actually, and what's really cool is, my greatest joy comes from helping other people to be superstars. Yes, helping other people to amplify their greatness, helping other people to refine so that they can get that subtlety when it comes to sales conversion. As you know, probably more than me, that 1 percentage point can make a big difference to your bottom line. So you can just make some subtle, small adjustments, and I'm sure I should do an interview on you. We will. We'll have to turn it around and turn it on you. So, but there is. It's such an exciting journey, and of course, it's always changing. But everything that I look at doing is timeless. You look at Aristotle, let's say the Greek philosophers and things like that. A lot of the stuff that I work on has to do with that. I come from a theater background, but at the same time, the entertainment and that really big concert type of experience, and then one thing I also did when I wasn't working as an actress was production stage managing.
Oh, wow.
So I learned all of these different things about how to make everything work. So when I went to in-house for Lee Cushing, which was one of the Hutchison business units, I just did everything. Like we did an event, and we work with clients like Burson Marsteller, big PR firms, and Ogilvy Mathers. We had $1 million budgets for events. I mean, it was like, you would love it. It's super over the top, right? Just first class all the way.
Yes.
And so, and then I trained sales teams, telemarketing teams. If there was a communication problem, I fixed it. But I went on the road with a CEO, and the one that actually invited me the first time that I taught to sing was very nervous. He was speaking English as his third language. His first language was Mandarin, then his second language, Cantonese. And so the third language was English, and he had to compete with people who were brought up in America, and in America we can toot our own horn. I'll include Canada in that too. We're quite facile at that. And the Brits, they have a different approach, but they still are extremely articulate. And so there was this inferiority, which is normal when you're hey, I would be useless in Cantonese, right? So I would just go with them and help them, and then a lot of that work was building up the personal development as well as the professional development.
Actually, talk about that. What do you mean by that? Because I think an interesting thing I noticed, even though you look at like leaders and CEOs, they could be running a big organization, but when you have to put them in front of a room to speak to, I don't know, even 30, 40, 50 people. They will get nervous. People will expect, oh yeah, you're natural leaders. Of course you're good speakers. It's not like that at all, right? And it's especially, I think the bigger they are, the higher they are, sometimes there's more to lose.
Absolutely.
Right? Like especially in Asia, like they don't want to lose face,
Oh, of
right?
course not.
Right?
Oh, I'm like a secret weapon all over Asia.
Right?
I work in 82 countries, but Asia's my favorite.
Yeah, right. It's
I'm like the secret weapon.
Before, Deborah, I need some help. Like, it's that kind of thing, right?
5 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it takes.
Yeah, but talk about the personal development side, where how do you help them with the mindset as well, give them the skill set of presenting, right?
Okay, so I mean, different people have different issues. I'm sort of a little bit like a microsurgeon or like a chiropractor. It's like, let's do a quick adjustment or go in there and tweak. And I mean, one of the things I want to say, these people are high achievers, they have high expectations, and it's about connection, not perfection. And so when you get on a stage, everything gets amplified and magnified, which also means your insecurities are magnified.
Very good point.
And if you're not well prepared, which many people don't have the time for, or they don't know how they can effectively, elegantly, efficiently prepare to give a great result every time consistently, of course they're going to be nervous. If somebody, like many of these leaders, they'd be given a speech at the last minute, like I work with some people in Indonesia, for example, they struggle even just with their accent. We have to teach them how to over-exaggerate their words, slow down, these types of things. And so just even dealing with the language and not even having a chance to look at it and having it not be in your own words. A lot of these times the team is passing them a presentation and saying, okay, and you have 5 minutes in the limo.
Read the script.
Yeah, exactly. Go. And that is enormously stressful. That would stress anybody out. So there's that. But I think what's interesting when it comes to voice, and I mean not just the voice that you're speaking, but that message, that $1 million message or multi-million-dollar message or billion-dollar message, it is about growing into who you're becoming. I mean, I would assume that's some of being a high-ticket closer, that mindset.
100%.
So you got to see it. So in your case, they would see you be able to do it. In my case, they can see me demonstrate the skills, and they'll say, okay, I want that. But ultimately, I think probably you and I would share this. Anybody who wants other people to shine and who has any ability to coach and lead would be able to target what that is. And so it's actually looking at You know, and I'll look for what they're already really good at. Like they might be really good at business, or they might be really good at golf, or they might be really good at karaoke.
Identify their
I find
strengths.
something they have a mastery in, and
Yeah.
I say, hey, look, you know what? This is the same thing. It's not magic. It's a learnable skill. And so part of it is being willing to be visible and to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And then the other part of it is really digging deep on what do you stand for? Can you really get behind this? Do you really mean what you say? And for some leaders, you know, are you in alignment totally with the vision and mission of the company?
Your certainty, your belief.
Yes,
right?
and you just have to be all in, and that's with what you do with your body, what you do with your voice, how you bring your words to life, and the words that you say, and then ultimately, but it's always about speaking to your audience's concern. Yeah, so sometimes people have challenges because the presentation is prepared for them. Other times it is that mindset issue where they're magnifying something. I find a lot of times people who have big issues had issues in childhood that they either don't remember, or where, you know, again, everybody fears humility. I mean, they don't fear public speaking. They fear humiliation.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to be humiliated.
Yeah.
Certainly
They
in
don't
Asia, it's
embarrass
even more
embarrass
so.
themselves.
Yeah. And nobody wants to look bad. So I think that's even more important, like you said, for leaders because there's so much at stake.
Correct.
Yeah. And so it's actually lining them up and looking at what's already working. And again, many high achievers, we're our worst critics. So we never acknowledge what's already working about us. Like, we're rocking this, I'm rocking that, this is great. I'm a great leader, I'm a great mentor, I'm a great spouse, I'm a great parent. You know, there's all these things we do really well, and we just make it magnify that, you know, public speaking in the whole domain of everything you do is just one thing. Let's say if somebody's introverted, they're like, I'm introverted, I don't like being the center of attention. Well, you know what, it's just one thing that you do. So sometimes it's just tweaking to logically tell them. Another time it's stepping into your greatness. Like there's a part of ownership, meaning there's a part in that person that needs to get that they're good enough.
Because I could see as you're sharing about stepping into the greatness or becoming a person that you know you could be. It's when I was a shy immigrant boy, right? And one of the things that changed my life is I joined Toastmasters.
Oh yeah, perfect example.
That was, but I never, when I joined Deb, I wasn't thinking about, oh, I'll be a speaker, I'll be an influencer. That was the furthest thing on my mind. I just wanted to reduce a little bit of the accent that I have, right? Just that's it. And build a little bit of self-confidence.
Right.
And kind of like, you know, your journey where, oh, I did this and people thought, oh, I'm good at it. It's funny because after 6 months of Toastmasters, I have like all my Toastmaster like members, right? Like they write these like forms, right?
Right, the evaluations.
Forms. Right? Oh, Dan, you're a natural. A natural. There's nothing natural about this at all, right? But then I'm getting like good comments, like, okay, that's maybe there's something here that I didn't even know that I have this talent or gift, right? And I found that I learned it faster than most.
Yeah.
So and then of course then fast forward, it changed my life from there. This gift of communication, being able to use my voice. Now back then, actually my voice was way higher pitch, way higher, and actually I hired a vocal coach.
Oh, you did? Good.
Yeah, she was also in theater.
Good.
Of course, not super famous like you, but like she was in theater.
I'm not super famous. You're way more famous than me.
But she taught me how to use, speak from diaphragm and all of that.
That's great.
I want you to definitely coach me on that too, right?
Sure.
Deb, I know in your book, $1 Million Voice, right? I do think it is $1 million voice that people when use it properly. Because one of the things I struggle with when I'm teaching, let's say, my closers how to close on the telephone, and they would try to read the script and hear the words and memorize the line, but they don't deliver that properly, right? And I would teach them. Even just one line, one question, if you use different tonality, it would sound totally different, right? It's one thing to say, hey, how can I help you? Like that's totally like, right? Or versus more, so how can I help you? That makes a difference. So when you coach someone, how do you help them develop that $1 million voice?
Well, I always start with where they are.
Okay.
And so I want to build them a little bit of confidence. So part of owning the greatness is actually getting what's working about you. I also aim to look at what makes them tick. Or if they have an area of mastery, how we can connect that area of mastery. Say they were really good at math, or really good at golf, or really good at something. Parenting, anything, cooking. And so then I aim to relate that to that ability. But I am very different than most people who teach what I teach. In my experience, finding that $1 million voice, finding that superstar essence that we're actually born with.
Interesting.
We're actually, when I do my programs in Taiwan, they call it reclaiming your voice or something. I'd have to see it in Mandarin, but
that's already within you.
Yeah, I mean, look at us as kids. We're expressive as kids, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's all kinds of social things that can happen, and bad things, or parenting, or whatever.
Yes.
But ultimately, we all are born with this excitement, this energy, this curiosity, this energy for life.
Right.
And sometimes things happen to us. Most time things do.
Life
and they
beat us down.
Yeah, and they suppress our spirit, right? Or like I'm not kidding you, the entertainment business, it broke me. I mean, I was like on the verge of a nervous breakdown because my experience was that I was being stripped of my God-given gifts, or I was being suppressed. I wasn't allowed to express myself, or there were conditions around my expressing myself. So when it's about people finding their voice and tonality and all of these things, I have an approach where I teach people how to have your words sound like their meaning. So, for example, what would be something that would be like a hooky line that one of your salespeople would say, or something important, like a closer line, or something important, or some core fundamental
example
thing.
could be, let's say, what would you like to do next? That's a closing line, I think.
Okay, all right. So if it's something simple like that, like what would you like to do next, the only thing there is to really be connected. Like it's when you're actually looking at someone, making eye contact with that person, you're having a meaningful connection with them. So you're connecting first, and then and you're meeting them at the same energy level that they are.
Right.
So what would you like to do next? Now, if somebody's chilled and relaxed,
yes,
right? But if somebody's super excited, you say, so what would you like to do next? So that's a matter of, and that's giving people back what they're giving you. So you are
in match relation.
The energy. Exactly.
Okay.
So just like if you'll see in a restaurant, if a couple's together, you can tell whether they're in love with each other, or you can tell by the body language, right?
100%.
The same things works with a voice.
Yes.
If you are speaking at a similar speed, if you are thoughtful in the way that you put your words together, that's one approach, yes? If somebody is a really quick thinker, like a CEO, CFO, you need to move fast, you got to speed up the way that you could. So what would you like to do next? It's totally different. So that is more like the emotional intention, or that connecting on what feeling that they're having.
Okay.
Yes?
Makes sense.
So you're taking them where they are and just elegantly asking them to take the next step.
Right.
Now, if it's something like do you have something, I know your book is Unlock It, yeah? So do you have something like a core phrase, or something that you say with your high ticket closer
I say
phrase?
always, one of the tagline we have is, you're closer than you think.
You're closer than, that's a great one. Yeah. So let's say in that word, the word closer and think are the two key words in that sentence, right? You're closer than you think. So I'm just going to play with you, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to teach you all while you're watching.
Yes.
This is how you can approach it and have the voice automatically work for your own authentic expression.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So can you repeat the phrase again?
You are closer than you think.
Yes, you are closer. So I'm going to ask you, if you think of the word closer, like the meaning of the word, what comes to mind? If there was a visual picture of what close would look like.
I would say like two people walking closer together.
I love it. So let's try, we'll go closer.
Closer.
Closer. So it's like when you say the word,
Yes.
you're moving closer. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
closer.
the image that you see
Yes.
is sensually in line,
Right.
like the voice is saying what you're seeing. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes.
So closer. Now,
Closer.
yeah, if that's what you're seeing. Now, I might see two people just about to kiss. So you're closer than you think.
You're closer.
So that might be sort of a little bit fun, a little bit
Yes,
cheeky.
yes.
So there is no right answer to what
Yes.
the
It
picture
depends
is.
on what
it depends
message
on
you
what
deliver.
comes to mind. And
Yes.
then you're present with that when you say it. The other thing, again, some people aren't so creative. So you can also go to the dictionary and say, what does it mean? In close proximity or whatever. And then so, okay, you think in close proximity, you're closer. You see how there's a precision? So the images
It's
or
almost
the
like
pictures.
more like robotic.
Yeah, because that's okay. And that's all right because that's how the person is processing. And where do we think from? Our brain, right? So if we're saying, if I'm using your images, I'd say, you're closer than you think. If I'm going to do a gesture, but you don't have to do a gesture, you just think it. If I did it to the camera, I might say, you're closer than you think. But when I say think, I'm experiencing
almost
the word
like,
in my head.
You know how people they do like they sing songs? I don't know if that's
Absolutely.
right?
You are totally right on there.
Is that how they picture? Like,
That's how the superstars do it. Now again,
That's
you
how you
look
inject
at,
emotions.
Absolutely. You look at Lady Gaga. Now, like many of these artists, they write their own music, so it's right there. If you're telling a story from your own life, it's going to be right there. Your only job is to put yourself in the place, remember that story, and share it. And when you feel it, when you have yourself in the environment, when you are seeing it, the audience can also feel it.
Yes.
And you can give a great presentation. It can be perfect in terms of all this other stuff. If the emotion isn't there, if that connection isn't there, if it's not delivered with passion, you're not going to sell, are you?
100%.
Or you're going to sell less.
100%.
Yeah?
100%.
So what I teach people is to be present in the moment. But the only reason to communicate is to help other people. Like in your case, you want to help other people grow their business.
Correct.
Right? You want to make it easy for them.
Correct.
And and then again, if you have a relationship with a person, if somebody is very like a CEO type person, you know what? You're closer than you think. Right? It's sort of like you're driving it there. But if it's somebody that might be let's say somebody who's struggling a little bit, maybe a young girl, I might say, sweetheart, you're closer than you think. Right? So it's some of it's that emotional connection.
Wow, it's so
and then it's you can literally look at the meaning of the word.
Yes.
Now here's a really cool thing. When you look at selling or when you look at a presentation or a pitch, there's going to be several hundred words you use all the time.
Correct.
So, and when people are brilliant speakers or when they're great performers, they just draw you in, they just captivate you. They sing or speak one word at a time. What did you say? I heard you do You Raise Me Up, right?
You Raise Me, yes.
So, like, you raise me up so I can walk on mountains, right? You're seeing yourself, you're feeling yourself on the mountain. And so this is what superstar singers do.
Yes.
This is what superstar communicators do. Now some people are born more natural. It's a learnable skill.
I want to ask you that because do you believe that is that the X factor or is it something that they could develop?
Well, I think X factor has a lot to do with energy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think being a masterful communicator, I'm sure probably for you, anybody can learn, right? It's definitely a learnable skill. Here's the distinction though. It takes practice.
Yes.
And our parents or our environment and our teachers have a big impact. Like my daughter never had to learn how to speak with impact and influence. She just copied me. She's like a little mini me, right?
Yes.
So this is, and if people have kids, it's really important that they do that personal development on themselves because they inherit our communication. If, let's say, for example, in Asia, there's a culture of suppression. Many times children should be seen and not heard. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way,
it is
but that's very true across many Asian cultures, and it's true also in places in America and other. It depends on the dynamics of the family. However, there's that suppression from the very beginning, and if somebody, let's say a woman who, let's say somebody grows up with a woman who is told, women's place is in the home, and we don't want to hear from you, and and this is very old school, very the old ways. Then they believe that what they have to say isn't valuable. The children spend the most time with them. They inherit those types of patterns, and so. But all of these things can be broken.
Right.
All you need to do is have, I'm sure, same thing, a clear goal. I always reverse engineer everything. Start with the end in mind. How do you want your audience to feel?
Right.
What stories and case studies do you need to do there to get there? When you look at how you want your audience to feel, that's going to tell you what words to choose. That's going to tell you, notice now I have my voice more quiet and more silent.
Yes.
It's going to tell you that right approach. So, and we do this naturally when we're in conversation.
True.
And when I say, when we're having a conversation now, and we do this naturally when we're with our loved ones or when we're really having a good time. And so, but when people get on a stage, they stop being natural. Or get in front of a camera. They stop being natural. And so that's because they're so self-conscious. And so these tools, I'm always building like a toolkit or multiple tools to be able to pull them out when you need them. So I look at everything as a system. Like, let's say, for example, if you are very clear, a big part of sales is having people imagine what it would be like to...
You have to create that vision for
exactly.
them, right?
So when you create that vision, you need to be seeing the vision. And if you're seeing the vision of whatever that is, whether it's financial freedom...
It's almost your emotions, your pictures leading your voice.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's... And again, in an ideal world, if you're going to be speaking, you should maybe warm up your voice a little bit. Maybe 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. It makes sense, right? If you're going to be doing public speaking, it might make sense to warm up your voice. One of the things I ask people to do is sing. Just sing a little bit.
And also just warm up and drink some water, right?
Yeah. Always room temperature or warm water. Well, that's very Asian.
Very Asian. I drink my green tea.
Yes.
What about Deb? Like, it's interesting you brought that up because I've seen speakers where they are very, very good. I mean, they're good, they're very smooth. Like they do the body language. I see this in Toastmasters a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't put your hand in your pocket, everything proper, but somehow you can feel that you don't connect them with as well.
It's fake, right?
It's like they're too, like, how they...
It's too polished.
Yeah, like it's like too smooth, like too perfect, right?
Yeah.
The punchline, everything is just too polished. Versus, I found that when I try to do that, it was very difficult for me. So then I kind of developed my own style where it's less polished. It's a little bit more raw. But then I could connect with the audience so much easier.
And they relate to you more because you're human.
It's not like, I forget my line, I say the wrong word, or I don't even care.
I'm laughing at myself. I do it.
And it's also, in a way, being...
real.
And vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a perfect word.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way, naked. I mean, you're
It
like...
is.
In a way.
It feels like
because,
that.
And the vulnerability comes because, as I said, people's insecurities are magnified.
Correct.
When you're in, for many people, an unreal situation, like standing on a big stage with a whole bunch of lights on you and all of that, it doesn't feel natural.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
And so then they don't act natural. So I'm going to give you a multi-million-dollar tip.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Love it.
All public speaking is speaking to one person at a time in front of many people. I'll repeat that. All public speaking is, great public speaking is having a one-on-one conversation with one person at a time in front of many people. So you connect, you stay one thought with that person, you make sure it lands, then you move on to the next person that might be at the next table, then the next section, then the next section. You don't have to go in a linear way, but you don't want to do back and forth like you're watching a tennis match. You want that to elegantly glide and to touch through the room. But what will have people be amazing and authentic and come across as open
Sincere.
and vulnerable, sincere, genuine, humble, which, as you know, in Asia, if you're not humble, no trust, zero trust, yeah? And I always say the ultimate credibility is a balance between your humanity, your humanness, and your expertise. And we got to have both head and heart. They may not buy if you're doing a really great technical presentation. It's got to be delivered with an energy, emotion, with passion. And sometimes sometimes it's not like dramatic, like emotional, but it's that care or that intense desire to help people maximize their time, their business, maximize their income.
Right.
And so so it's all in the connection, it's all in your sincerity, what do you want your audience to feel, what are their concerns, speaking to their concerns. We could do a whole...
Understanding the audience, right?
Asking them, we could do a whole day of talking probably about that stuff.
Yes.
And so then really show up to serve. It's not about speaking to sell, it's about speaking to serve. And if you come with a heart of service, people will feel that. And then when you really look at people, many times, and you see this a lot in Toastmasters, and you see it a lot with people who have insecurities, they don't really look at people. Their eyes glaze over. So you want to have that real connection. When I talk to you, you nod, I can see that you're getting it. And so when you're talking in front of a group of people, then you are reading people. And here's the real genius about that, and I know you do this naturally in what it is that you do, is that you're going to feel what they need to hear.
It's true. It is very, very true. Because I think as I speak more and more, this just one day I kind of developed this sense where, example, let's say I'm speaking to a group of 100, round table, I could sense maybe that table there, there's some questions. There's some I should pause. Like, I think there's something they want me to address. Is this like sixth sense? I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it is. It's being present with the room.
Yes.
And look, if you are, number one, you have to be comfortable with yourself. And for people who are not used to speaking a lot in public, they need to know their material. There is no way you can get to that level of awareness with your audience without knowing what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah? But then, and if you can give up this crazy idea that you have to be perfect.
I kind of being in control. Like I want to be precise and control of the whole thing. You gotta let go of that.
I want to control all the things that I can control, like the technology, the microphones, the time, the system. I want to control my opening. I need to stay on time. And, I want to control, when you go to a close, it depends on what it is that you're offering and what that next best step is. Many times, sometimes that close, the words you say are very, very crucial. So for some people who may not be natural at it, they have to practice it, and they have to practice it with that intention. And again, one of the things that I say all the time, and in my book, I actually have a book coming out first before $1 Million Voice, which is called Speak Like a Superstar. And so in that book, I show people how to copy people they love. So let's say many people, you have a whole army of people who love you, right? Or if somebody loves Michael Jackson. The person I use in my book is Martin Luther King, who had a really powerful message, and I
deconstruct. Powerful voice.
And I deconstruct, and his words sounded like what they mean. And he took long pauses, and he had that Southern Baptist type of style, which most people don't speak in. But if somebody wants to get better at landing a message and nailing a message, they can practice the last 3 minutes of Martin Luther King's speech, or just take a minute of it.
That's what I did. That's like at the time I studied, like, say, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, like all these great motivational speakers, and I tried to imitate them, right? And Zig Ziglar,
Those guys are. I speak with mostly all of them,
right. I tried to, but then later on, once I kind of got a hang of it, then I know I need to develop my own style, right? So I kind of learned the basics, the principles, but then I developed my own style.
Well, that's good. And how you did, you did it in a very natural way. I do the same thing with singing. Like if you want to find your signature style singing, you choose 6 different artists you like. You master each song, and then your own style starts to emerge. So you were very clever to do that. That's super smart.
Deb, do you think that for people who are, let's say, not thinking about like entrepreneurs, like this, just selling one-on-one, they have to present, or they have to present to groups. Sometimes I find that speakers, when they do the content, awesome. Like they're like so natural, they're funny, they're all good, great storytellers. The minute they transition to the close, now something changed, right? You can see the insecurities come up, like the whole voice, the whole body language. Like 1 minute before they're funny, and then it's like, well, now it's okay, I'm gonna take 5 minutes, talk a little bit about what I do. If it's okay, like you can see like the whole.
They're apologizing. For selling.
Like ooh,
like they're shooting themselves.
Yeah, it's so interesting to watch.
It's because they have issues with sales. They don't like selling. They have resistance.
Correct.
Or maybe they're not happy with their pricing, or they don't believe in what it is that they do,
Yeah.
or they don't have the right structure. Because I'll go up at the beginning and I'll say, oh yeah, so exciting to see you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover you the top 3 things you need to master to be able to begin to find your $1 million voice.
To set the expectation,
right?
yeah.
And of course we have a short amount of time, so I don't want you to worry. I'm going to cover what we can, and then at the end of my presentation, I'll tell you how you can get some more.
Perfect.
Right? So you're telling them. Now that's what I just made that up right there. Sometimes I'll craft it a little bit more, so I clearly
but
say. But
you set the expectation.
Yes, and I tell them I'm going to make them an offer to take the next step or get some more. That's elegant. I'm not going to be, everything about me has to be elegant.
Yes.
Because I just want to be. Yes. And now I have silver hair and everything. I have to be.
That's right.
But and some people don't. Some people are, like your book F You Money, right?
Yes.
It's like totally in your face.
Yes.
And that's okay.
But it's the same idea. The principle is the same.
But it's you being you, and that's the thing. And so that's that personal and professional development piece. And ultimately, people have to be okay with who they are in their quiet moments, or who they are in their zone of what they do really well. And then we need to amplify that, but do it in a natural way.
Right.
Yes, people can be polished, and some people pay for that with a keynote speaker where you're getting a fee. But when it comes to leading, teaching, inspiring an audience, or you building a tribe or a whole movement, right?
Yes.
It's about just being yourself and giving yourself permission to not be perfect and make mistakes. I did a keynote earlier today for this Forbes event, and I was teaching something, and I don't know, I did something that was like, I can't remember, but it was silly, and it would have been perceived as a mistake. And I just laughed it off, and I said something, I don't even remember what it was, because I just let myself talk out loud, like we're having a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And so, and I said it, and then I just said what was going on in my brain, which I can't remember now, and I asked, because I'm always stopping and making teaching points, and I said, so let me ask you this. How many of you would have been horrified if you did something like that, right? And immediately that judge would be like that, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't have an issue with it. I said, do you like me more or less because that happened? I just made a mistake. Did you like me more or less? And they liked me more. I said, so there you go, you see? So if we don't have an issue with it,
they don't have an issue.
They don't have an issue. Look, I forget what I'm going to say so many times. But if you're connected to the audience, you look at the right person, or you feel, you know what? So over there at the back, are you with me? Do you have any questions so far? Yeah, or you can say another thing. If you have people that aren't responding, you can say, okay, we've covered a little bit now. Let's lock that in, Mr. Lockett. Let's take a moment and lock that in, okay?
Yes, right.
And so what I want you to do is I want you to grab a partner, and I want you to share your top takeaways in the last 30 minutes.
Yes.
Then you can open up. They've already discussed it, especially in an Asian context, or if people are stepping outside their comfort zone, like I know a lot of the work you do, I'm sure, really requires people to step outside their comfort zone, 100%. Right? So then after they've had a chance to practice and discuss, so anybody like to share what just came up in your group? And then you're doing your magic and your mastery. And so there's a lot of ways to engage people. Now, again, you have the personal power, like you're saying, you can feel that there's an issue someplace. So if that's the case, you'd say, let's just get a sense from the room. I see you guys are a little bit far away. Do you have any questions about that last section we covered?
Sometimes it's just taking that time to show the audience you're listening, right?
Yeah.
Where, hey, any questions? And sometimes, or they, no, okay, good. Do you have any questions? Good, and then we move on. What's interesting is I think in the beginning where I learned to be a speaker, But then later on, I found that being on stage, there are many, many skill sets.
Oh,
right?
a ton.
Being a storyteller, a presenter is different from being just a speaker, I think. Being a speaker is different from being a facilitator.
Absolutely.
Right? Now you have your workshops, you're facilitating, or being a trainer, where you're training them on a particular skill set, where you're maybe designing certain exercise, right? Or you're being a coach,
yeah,
which is one-on-one, right? A mentor. That's very, very different. I think it's also being able to let go. Like a perfect example, I was doing a big event, 1,000 people. I have my agenda, right? Like exactly this is what I'm going to teach. So there was one of the mornings, and I was going to go through my slides and all that, and then because I just walked them through a very powerful exercise, and one of my students, like huge, we're talking like huge guy. Right, just bawling, right? And his name is Dave. He says, Dan, I've got so much pain. I don't know, like it's like a ball here. Now I have at that time 2 choices. I could say, Dave, let me talk to you afterwards. I'll see how I can help you. I need to focus on my thing. But I made a different decision.
Yeah, process him in the room.
Yeah, I just basically said, you know what? I have 2 choices. I let the whole room know. Either I can go through my slides. And I said, you know what? I'm going to actually create a different segment. I'm going to go after the event. We'll do a special training, just cover the slides, so you won't miss anything. But now I need to help Dave. So I brought him on stage. Right?
Beautiful.
Right? And he was, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what is the issue.
I do that all the time.
Right? It's like,
it's beautiful.
But let's go, right?
Yeah.
And then boom, it turned out to be one of the highlights of the event, where he released his pain and everything else.
And a life-changing experience for him. Absolutely.
Yeah. And for also the audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they were there.
They witnessed it. And that is way more credible than if your slides.
Yeah.
I actually set up my presentations, even big ones, in front of 5,000, 10,000 people. I'm not joking.
Yes.
It's very dangerous. You could do it, though.
Yes.
I start off, I do my opening, I cover my main issues, then I talk about the problems that people have, and then I say, okay, now let's focus on you. Let's look at your problems. I give them a whole slide full of, these are the problems I see mostly with my clients. So I'm already telling them what their problems are, which they know anyway. Oh, yeah, that one's mine, that one's mine. And so then I open up for questions in the middle of my keynote.
Yes, it's a very
and then I do
thing.
exactly what you're doing. Now again, in a workshop, sometimes people don't get to that deep. I mean, this is like a life-altering moment that they will remember forever.
Correct.
So in a keynote, that may not be the case.
Correct.
But one of the things that's brilliant about that is that you are demonstrating way more by using the people in the room, and that shows your brilliance, that shows your heart, that shows your pure intention for people, and that makes people want to work with you more. They want a piece of you, they want to learn that, and they get to be the hero.
Correct.
He got to be the hero.
Correct.
And you got to make such a huge difference in your life. And I think, for those of us who are in the business long enough, this business, that's what we live for,
100%,
right?
100%.
That's why we do these crazy hours and travel all the world. And people think we're absolutely nuts, but
true.
it's for that.
It's true.
It's for that.
It's true. And people, when they see that, like you say, it's very, very dangerous to do because you don't know what is going to happen. Like if you want to protect your image and you want to be like Mr. Mrs. Perfect, you will never do anything like that, right? Everything has to be like planned. But when you do something like this, you have to believe in your own ability, then you could solve the problem. And I don't know if it happens to you with that. Like when I am in a zone, I kind of just in a zone. I don't think about myself so much.
No, of course not.
Yeah, like I don't like even after that whole event. It feels blurry for me.
I don't even remember stuff.
Yeah, right? Is that right? The same thing?
No, and I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. Is it okay if we go in that direction?
Please.
Yes. So I believe very much in a higher power.
Yes.
I call my higher power God.
Yes.
So, like for me, it's about getting out of my own way.
Yes.
And so...
it's almost channeling that.
Yes, that's exactly it. I use it like if we use like because Canadian a 2-prong as well, like the US plug. Is it the same plug in Canada? The same power plug, okay? I look at it like there's this power plug that hooks me right into the Holy Spirit, and that divine light or that creative light, even if you're not religious, that creative divine power flows to you and through you, so you can touch the hearts of people, 100%. You can move. And I even say when it comes to sales, I pray. I say, use me as an instrument for your wisdom to flow to me and through me so that the people who are meant to say yes today can easily and elegantly take the next step. And that's it. And then I just show up. Now, again, you have to be prepared. You have to know your content. And look, in our area of doing what we've been doing for so long, yes, it's a little bit scary, but it's also fun,
It's
right?
Fun. It's fun.
But
There's
you have to
nothing
know
like
your
it.
stuff.
You have to know your
Anybody
stuff.
who really knows their stuff
Yeah.
can do it.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Anybody who's had the thousands and thousands of hours can do
Yes.
it, but you have to create the space in your presentation.
Right.
And then when you move to a close,
Yes.
for people who have issues with closes, they have to practice the close. They have to work on the mindset
get it
behind
down.
the close. And there, they should be at least maybe aiming for a little bit more polish so that their insecurities don't come. So that then they can stay connected to their audience. They can be focused on serving
Yes.
and be focused on if sometimes, like when I work with, I adore, and one of my good friends, and I worked with him for 3 years, is T. Harv Eker.
Yes.
Yeah? He's a master of selling from the stage.
Yes.
And he would push people, he would piss people off, and he is great at sales, but he did it for their good. He did it to be able to help them to take the next step. One of my dearest, closest, most wonderful friends that I love dearly is a guy named Blair Singer. He's in
Blair Singer,
sales.
yes.
And so Blair is just so
Phenomenal facilitator,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, he's just amazing. He's a master. And so he does that all the time. So and again, that's part of, I have silver hair to prove it. That's part of the wisdom of putting in those decades of experience. And then when I said this, I probably said it earlier in the interview, but I'll say it again. It takes many masters to make a masterpiece. Right? Each person brings a piece. Like your people can take your piece, maybe a huge chunk of your piece. They might need a little piece of my piece. They might need Charlie Fusco's piece. They might need Blair Singer's piece. They might need Harv Eker's piece, Tony Robbins' piece. And look, you know what? If you're a lifelong learner, do it all. I studied how to be a coach, a facilitator, a trainer, so that if I'm in front of the room and I realize I need to put people in a training
Totally into that.
exercise to lock it in,
Yes. I love it. Lock it in.
lock it in.
Yes. That's going to be my tagline. With the Deborah voice. On my podcast.
Yeah. And so then you're flipping in there, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love it. Deborah, we can talk all day. This is so much fun. Talk to us about your new books.
It's called Speak Like a Superstar,
Yes,
How to
I love
Communicate with Credibility, Charisma, and Confidence.
Wow. I'm so looking forward to it. And it's going to be available on Amazon, obviously?
Oh, yeah, it'll be Amazon, through the booksellers, probably in the airports. Yeah.
I love it. And if my audience wants to follow you on social media, what's the best way to do that?
Let's see. What is the best way? Deborah T. Patel, if you're a Twitter person. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I have a great network. And so many of your people are already connected to me. I love them because I got connected to you and Desmond and Jenny. So, LinkedIn, it's just Deborah Torres Patel. Facebook, same, my name. Yeah,
Awesome.
so that's it. You
Awesome.
can find me.
I want to end with Deb, me saying you are closer than you think together. How's that?
Okay, all right, sure. Okay.
And we'll do it in what voice? You teach me.
Okay, well, how about we do like we're doing closer to each other?
Okay.
Right? You like that?
Okay, we'll look at the camera. Okay.
Oh, you want to look at the camera?
The camera. We'll
Okay,
do
so
that.
we'll just move closer. So,
Okay.
ready?
Okay. 1,
Yeah?
2, 3.
You are closer than you think.